is a dog-eat-dog world, but in this case, we're talking about snakes. Dozens of snakes were released into the wild in North Florida to eat other invasive snakes.
Many people think of Florida's swamps as quiet places filled with alligators, birds, and thick wetlands. But recently, new footage captured deep inside these mysterious waters has left many people shocked and searching for answers. What began as an ordinary look at one of nature's wildest environments quickly turned into something far more surprising. The images revealed an aftermath that few expected to see, sparking curiosity, debate, and concern. What exactly was discovered in the swamps? And why has this new footage captured so much attention across the country? Florida's incredible wildlife comeback. For more than 40 years, eastern indigo snakes had almost completely disappeared from North Florida. To bring them back, conservation teams spent many years restoring a 6,000-acre protected area in the Florida Panhandle known as Apalachicola Bluffs and Ravines. They carefully replanted longleaf pine forests, reintroduced gopher tortoises to rebuild the underground burrows that indigo snakes use for shelter, and released captive-bred snakes into the wild, one group at a time. The entire project required patience, planning, and a great deal of money. Year after year, scientists released snakes into the restored habitat and waited for signs that the animals were surviving and finding mates. Year after year, the trail cameras provided little useful evidence. The researchers would then return to their breeding facilities and prepare the next group of snakes for release. Then everything changed. One day, the cameras captured footage of two tiny hatchlings. These young snakes had never been handled by humans. They were born in the wild to parents that had survived, hunted, and reproduced completely on their own. They had no radio trackers, received no extra food, and lived without any human assistance. Most importantly, they were born on land where wild eastern indigo snakes had not successfully reproduced for decades, long before many Americans were even born. The discovery was a major milestone. Michelle Hoffman, a field biologist with the Orion Center for Indigo Conservation at the Central Florida Zoo, spoke carefully about what the footage meant. She explained that evidence of successful reproduction was one of the most important signs scientists were looking for to determine whether the reintroduction program was truly working. She described the footage as a strong signal that the project was succeeding. Then she admitted something scientists rarely say openly. She explained that she had not expected such a high level of success so early in the program. The results had exceeded expectations. Another expert, Brad Hanlon, the Reptile and Amphibian Conservation Coordinator for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, praised the effort as one of Florida's finest conservation projects. The years of hard work were finally producing results. The eastern indigo snake was not reintroduced to the Florida Panhandle solely to restore a lost species. There was another reason behind the effort, something happening about 400 miles farther south in the Florida Everglades. The eastern indigo is no ordinary snake. It is the longest native snake in North America and is a powerful predator that regularly hunts and eats other snakes. Even more impressive, it is naturally resistant to the venom of every pit viper species found on the continent. It is perfectly built for life on the forest floor, where it searches for and captures other reptiles. Because of these abilities, many conservationists saw the indigo snake as a long-term ally in dealing with one of the most serious reptile invasions in American history. However, the young hatchlings seen on camera were being born into a challenge they could not yet understand. On one side was the slow but steady expansion of the eastern indigo snake population southward from the areas where they had been released. On the other side were several powerful forces moving north through Florida, forces that scientists did not fully anticipate when the restoration program first began. Eventually, these two paths would meet. So, what world are these young indigo snakes growing into? And why do their survival matter so much? Why is the Florida Everglades much more than a swamp? Let's find out. Everglades, the trillion-dollar river of grass. The first and biggest mistake people make about the Florida Everglades is calling it a swamp. In reality, it is not a swamp at all. The Everglades is a slow-moving river of grass that covers about 1.5 million acres across the southern part of Florida. Water moves slowly through this vast area, cleaning, filtering, and supporting life throughout the region. The Everglades is one of the most important natural systems in the United States. It supplies drinking water to between 8 and 9 million people in South Florida. It also helps protect cities from hurricanes by absorbing storm surges before they reach populated areas. The Everglades refills underground water sources that people depend on every day. It even helps control rainfall patterns across South Florida, although scientists are still studying exactly how it does this. When the Everglades is healthy, it provides all of these benefits naturally and without any cost. In 2025, the Everglades Foundation and Earth Economics released a study to estimate the value of these services. They found that the Everglades provides about $31.5 billion in benefits every year. Over a period of 50 years, the total value of the ecosystem is estimated to be around $1 trillion. Paul Hinesley, the chief economist at the Everglades Foundation, said the study shows how important the Everglades is to South Florida's economy and to the people who live there. Josh Cousins of Earth Economics said that even the $1 trillion estimate is probably too low because it is difficult to fully measure the value of the clean drinking water the Everglades provides. The importance of the Everglades is recognized around the world. In 1979, UNESCO named it a World Heritage Site. It is one of only 3 places on Earth that hold 3 major international honors at the same time: World Heritage Site status, Biosphere Reserve status, and recognition as a Ramsar wetland of international importance. The other 2 places with this rare distinction are the Great Barrier Reef and the Galapagos Islands. Before the year 2000, the Everglades was home to an incredible variety of wildlife. More than 800 species of animals with backbones live there, including about 400 bird species and 275 fish species. At least 36 animal species were listed as threatened, endangered, or specially protected by the federal government. The Everglades was also the only place in the world where American alligators and American crocodiles lived in the same waters. Raccoons were so common that park rangers often considered them a nuisance. Marsh rabbits were described in reports as being extremely abundant. During nighttime drives through the park, people could often spot dozens of mammals every hour. The skies above the sawgrass prairies were often filled with huge flocks of wading birds. Early naturalists compared these massive groups of birds to dark storm clouds moving across the landscape. The Florida panther, which had once been reduced to fewer than 30 surviving animals, depended heavily on the Everglades for food. Medium-sized animals such as raccoons, rabbits, and other mammals formed an important part of its diet. Every part of the Everglades ecosystem was connected. Raccoons helped feed panthers. Fish fed herons. Insects fed frogs. Frogs fed snakes. Snakes fed hawks. Every species played an important role, and nothing was unnecessary. This natural system had existed for thousands of years, long before anyone could remember. Each species had adapted to its environment and earned its place through generations of survival and change. The Everglades was not a weak or delicate ecosystem. It was ancient, complex, and incredibly resilient. The medium-sized animals, raccoons, opossums, deer, bobcats, and foxes, acted like the links that held the entire ecosystem together. They connected different levels of the food chain and helped keep everything balanced. Then those important animals began to disappear. However, the very links that held the ecosystem together were slowly consumed. How did python invade Burma, and why? Let's find out. Burmese python invasion. In 1979, a wildlife biologist recorded the first Burmese python ever found inside Everglades National Park. The snake was seen near the Tamiami Trail and was treated as an unusual discovery rather than a serious problem. No one sounded an alarm. After all, it was just one snake in 1.5 million acres of wetlands. The reason Burmese pythons appeared in Florida came down to two major factors. The first was the international pet trade. The second was large-scale human carelessness. During the 1980s and the 1990s, Miami became the center of the exotic reptile trade in the United States, handling more than 12,000 wildlife shipments every year. Between 1996 and 2006 alone, more than 100,000 baby Burmese pythons were imported into the country. These young snakes were only about 20 inches long and could easily fit in one hand. They were sold at reptile shows throughout Florida for as little as $10 and were promoted as exciting and unusual pets. What many sellers failed to mention was how large these snakes would eventually become. A python small enough to fit in your hand can grow as much as 4 feet per year. Within a few years, that $10 pet can turn into a giant snake measuring between 12 and 20 feet long and weighing as much as 200 pounds. Many owners eventually found themselves unable to care for such a large animal. Instead of keeping them, some drove to nearby canals or wetlands and released the snakes into the wild. They believed they were giving the animals freedom. In reality, they were placing highly efficient predators into one of North America's most fragile ecosystems, and then leaving them there. Then, in August 1992, Hurricane Andrew struck South Florida as a powerful Category 5 hurricane with winds stronger than 165 miles per hour. Among the destruction was a reptile breeding facility near Homestead that was badly damaged by the storm. An unknown number of captive Burmese pythons escaped and disappeared into the surrounding wetlands. Although the hurricane is often the most dramatic part of the story, it was not where the invasion began. Ian Bartoshek, a wildlife biologist with the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, who has spent years studying and tracking pythons, explained the situation simply. If the cause were a multiple-choice question, choice A would be escaped pets, choice B would be intentionally released pets, choice C would be a hurricane or other weather event, and the correct answer would be D, all of the above. A genetic study published in 2011 showed that Burmese pythons had almost certainly been breeding in southern Florida before 1985. This suggests that Hurricane Andrew helped increase a population that was already growing quietly in the wild. By 2000, Florida wildlife officials recognized that a self-sustaining and actively breeding python population existed inside Everglades National Park. The United States banned the import of Burmese pythons in January 2012, and Florida completely banned private ownership of the species in 2021. By that time, the United States Geological Survey, USGS, estimated that the python population had grown into the tens of thousands. Some researchers believed between 100,000 and 300,000 pythons were living in Florida. Steve Davis, Chief Science Officer of the Everglades Foundation, described the challenge of finding and removing the snakes in a way that makes the problem seem almost impossible. According to field estimates, for every one python spotted by a person in the Everglades, there may be anywhere from 100 to 1,000 more hidden from view. In 2012, 11 scientists published a study in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences that confirmed what field researchers had been reporting for years. The lead author was Michael Dorcas of Davidson College. Although the research methods were simple, the results were clear and difficult to dispute. But why are the Everglades decreasing? Could it be caused by environmental factors? Let's take a closer look. Everglades wildlife decline. Michael Dorcas's team drove the 130 kilometers main park road through Everglades National Park at night. They followed the same route, traveled at the same speed, and used the same counting methods that had been used in wildlife surveys carried out in 1996 and 1997. Those earlier surveys covered almost 6,600 kilometers over 51 nights. The newer surveys were much larger, covering more than 56,000 kilometers over a period of 8 years. This allowed scientists to make a clear and direct comparison between the two sets of results. What they found was shocking. Raccoon numbers had fallen by 99.3%. Opossum numbers had dropped by 98.9%. White-tailed deer populations were down by 94.1%. Bobcat numbers had decreased by 87.5%. Even more alarming, marsh rabbits were not seen a single time during the entire 8-year survey. Foxes were also completely absent. Their populations had not simply become smaller, they had disappeared from the landscape altogether. Dr. Dorcas wrote that declines on this scale showed that an enormous number of Burmese pythons must already have been living inside the park to cause such devastating effects. His co-author, Dr. Robert Reed of the USGS, provided a comparison that made the situation seem even more serious. He pointed out that it took about 30 years for the invasive brown tree snake to nearly wipe out the mammals and birds of Guam after it was accidentally introduced there following World War II. In the Everglades, however, a similar level of destruction appeared to have happened in only 11 years. The pattern of the data left little room for doubt about the cause. The greatest losses occurred in areas where pythons had been established for the longest time. Meanwhile, control sites located outside python territory still had mammal populations close to their historical levels. The collapse of wildlife populations matched the spread of pythons almost perfectly, both in location and in timing. In 2015, a controlled experiment published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B removed nearly all remaining uncertainty. Scientists released 95 radio-tagged marsh rabbits inside Everglades National Park and at separate control sites where pythons were not present. The results were dramatic. Inside the park, pythons killed 77% of the tagged rabbits within 11 months. At the python-free control sites, python predation was 0%. In less than 1 year, the local rabbit population was essentially wiped out. A follow-up study in 2021 found that the area affected by python-related mammal declines had roughly doubled since the 2012 study. Researchers also found no signs that wildlife populations were recovering in the damaged areas. The disappearance of these animals affected much more than just their numbers. Each species played an important role in keeping the ecosystem healthy. Raccoons helped spread seeds, controlled insect populations, and served as an important food source for Florida panthers. Opossums helped clean up dead animals across the landscape. Many medium-sized mammals formed a crucial link in the food web, connecting predators and prey. However, they were like the support beams of the ecosystem, and one by one those supports were removed. So, what's the Florida Python Challenge all about? Is it just about creating awareness? Let's find out. Florida Python Challenge. The Florida Python Challenge began in 2013 as a public hunting event created to raise awareness about the growing python problem and to help remove some of the snakes from the wild. In its first year, 1,600 registered participants managed to remove 68 pythons. Over time, the event continued to grow. By 2024, 857 participants removed 195 pythons. In 2025, a new record was set when 934 participants captured 294 snakes. Many methods have been tested to find and remove Burmese pythons, but most have not worked well. Thermal imaging drones, for example, failed for a simple biological reason. Burmese pythons are ectothermic, meaning their body temperature matches the temperature of their surroundings. Because of this, they blend into the warm environment of Florida's wetlands and are very difficult to detect with heat-sensing equipment. Researchers from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University found that even regular visual drones have trouble spotting pythons hiding in tall grass. Food-baited traps have also been unsuccessful. Burmese pythons are ambush predators that prefer to stay completely still and wait for prey to come close, rather than actively searching for food. The United States Geological Survey, USGS, has confirmed that there is currently no known bait that consistently attracts pythons. Traditional drift fence traps are also difficult to use on a large scale because the Everglades sits on a foundation of limestone bedrock, making installation challenging. A major step forward came in 2017 when professional removal programs were introduced. Through the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission's Patrick Program and the South Florida Water Management District's Python Elimination Program, about 100 paid contractors now search for and remove pythons throughout the Everglades all year long. In July 2025, a partnership with a Miami-based artificial intelligence company achieved an impressive breakthrough. The effort led to the removal of 748 pythons in just a single month, a total greater than the number removed during some entire previous years. By 2025, the combined number of pythons removed since 2000 had surpassed 23,500 animals. One of the most effective tools available today is known as the Judas Snake Program. In this method, a captured male python is surgically fitted with a radio transmitter and then released back into the wild. During the breeding season, the tagged snake naturally follows the scent trails of females, leading researchers directly to groups of breeding pythons. The females and competing males are removed while the tagged snake is released again so it can help locate more breeding groups. Ian Bartoshek has operated the largest version of this program since 2013. His team has deployed 40 scout snakes across 200 square miles of southwestern Florida. Through this effort, they have removed more than 20 tons of python biomass and prevented an estimated 20,000 eggs from hatching. In 2023, the USGS officially stated that eliminating Burmese pythons from southern Florida is probably impossible. The situation closely resembles Australia's struggle with cane toads. In 1935, 102 cane toads were introduced into Queensland to control beetles damaging crops. The plan failed, and after 90 years of increasingly aggressive control efforts, the goal of completely eradicating cane toads has been abandoned. So what do you think about the shocking revelation by the new footage from Florida's swamps? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.